Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Force from Stash Project. This is going to be our May 2024 model kit compilation video for the releases. Now, I realize by the time you see this, May will probably be about over. It's been really busy at work, and I'm sort of taking the time to record this on one morning, and we'll edit it in a different morning. As I am making this video, there are a few things I still don't have box art for, but as we go through them and there's box art in the video, that means that by the time I got around to editing this video, the box art had finally been released. So, take that for what you will. Whatever you see will be an indication of what actually occurred in the future. So, we have the normal sort of assortment of domestic releases. We have some Revel kits this month, as we covered sort of real briefly in the last video from April. These kits got released towards the end of April, beginning of May, depending on where you lived in the country. If you happen to be at like NNL East, you could pick these kits up. I do know that, like, you know, the further away you were from the distribution center with Revel, Carrera America, Carrera Revel America, whatever they're calling the company right now. I can't remember which company comes first in that name off the top of my head. Is based in New Jersey now, and obviously with vendors in New Jersey, they got the kits in time for NNL East, and it seemed to be days and days and days later, of course, as shipping would tend to be. The further away you were from New Jersey, the longer it took for these kits to be released. So they're out there now. You probably have been able to get them. There's round 2 stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff from Salvino's JR. Some of the stuff will be coming out at the very, very end of this month. So this is, may still not be out by the time you see this. And then we have, of course, the normal associated onslaught of reissues, although there is one new tool coming out of Japan this month. So let's hop into it and get started. So, as we mentioned at Revel, and again we sort of mumble covered these kits at the time. There is a reissue of the venerable pile of junk that is known as the 77 Chevy Street Pickup. This has been released a number of times, probably most famously in the hot rod boxing. That seems to be the most plentiful version of this kit that exists prior to this reissue. It was released under the Monogram Motorworks kits at one point, which is a real weird thing because those Monogram Motorworks were supposed to be, basic kits that were easy to build. And this hot mess of a nonsense pickup truck is anything but easy to build. It's very, very fiddly. It also doesn't have an accurate front suspension, rear suspension, bumpers, or anything else required to turn this into an actual, like, square body step side. If you know that going in, and you're willing to put a great deal of time and effort into it, you might be able to make something halfway decent out of this. I would, on the other hand, advise you to run as far, far away, as fast as possible, in any general direction you choose from this kit. I do appreciate the box art here. This is very 1980s Trapper Keeper cover type box art. It certainly makes the thing look 10 times cooler than it really is. However, again, man, this is just Champ 500 wheel tooling aside, because yes, it does have newly tooled wheels inside, probably because the old wheels don't fit the current, like, vinyl real tires that Revel uses these days. The tires that were in this originally were 2-piece nonsense, so at least that's better-ish than it was. This had such great potential to be something cool if it would have been, like, done properly to begin with. You really can't argue with, like, what it is now, because it's been around for 30 plus years. So it is what it is in that sense. But I have seen a number of people pick up various versions of this, be very gusto on the YouTubes about building it, and then you never seem to ever hear about it again afterwards, because despite what some people will tell you, there are really some occasionally bad model kits out there. I don't know who needs to hear that, and if I need to say it louder for those in the back, but it's not every kit, and it's not just old kits are bad. There's new kits that have been bad. Pagani Warrior from Aoshima being a key example of one. But yeah, know what you're buying before you buy it. It's always the key message here. There's a reissue of the 32 Ford Tudor sedan 2-in-1. It's a high boy here on the box art, but the fenders are still included, so you can build a regular 32 Ford Tudor. It includes 3 sets of wheels. So in addition to the sort of mag wheels and the wire wheels that you got in this kit originally, it has these Hillebrand sort of kind of looking wheels that came out of the 32 Ford Roadster that I don't think has been out since this kit's been released. The last time I think the Roadster was around was 2007 or so. This kit came out in 2014, and I'm not saying that one superseded the other in some way that it can't come back out. It's just we haven't seen the 3 window in a really long time. We haven't seen that Roadster in a really long time. The Tudor, again, it's been 10 years since the last time it's been out. And yeah, there's a lot to like about this. This is the 32 Ford tooling from the 90s that begat the 3-window, 5-window Speedwagon Roadster, this kit, and it's all pretty neat in that sense. I picked one of these up, and I'm not a hot rod guy, but the 32 Fords that Revel did are really nice. They're showing their age a little bit after being around for 30 years, but it's still pretty cool for what it is. And then lastly, there's reissue of the 57 Ford Del Rio, as I always call it, Hidden Valley Ranch Wagon. Newly tooled grille, bumpers, wheels, a couple other odds and ends. I think the mirrors are new as well because they're sort of a more sporty mirror than the original 57 Ranch Wagon had. All of the original parts are in there, so you can build it as stock. And it also includes all of the parts for the turbocharger. People who have owned these 57 Ford kits since they started coming out in the 20-teens know that in order to get the supercharged engine, you had to buy the NASCAR kit. Or some of the gasser kits included it, but you couldn't, well, you could technically, but you couldn't build those gasser kits as factory stock kits. And so it created this weird thing where some of the turbocharger parts were in the 57 sedans, some of the turbocharger parts were in that police car version that came out, and some of them were here, but it was very hard to get them all in one place, and this has them all. I think that makes this a really cool option for a sleeper wagon. Make it kind of stock. I don't necessarily know if you want to use these specific wheels, but you can put a something other than the dog dish and hubcap wheels on it. You may want to keep the stock grille, but use these new sort of stylized custom bumpers, and make something that's a pretty neat little like sleeper wagon kind of thing with that turbocharged engine. Be kind of fun. So that's back out there for you if you're so inclined. So that's all cool and well. Over at round 2, several kits. Most of these are reissues. Well, they're always reissues, right? No, we've had a whole bunch of new toolkits recently out of round 2. But right now, this month, we're in reissue mode. First up, you have the 57 Chrysler 300 Custom. This is a pretty much straight reissue of this kit that came out in the 1990s. A lot of people don't remember that in addition to the Chrysler 300 57 kit, this custom version was released a year and a half or so later. It had one release, but since then, in the Racing Champions era, which most of us try to forget existed in the first place, it's sort of like Michael Jordan's Washington career. We don't talk about that happening, but it did. So, this is just a straight reissue of that. It is only custom. There are not enough pieces in here to build a factory stock kit. They just reissued the factory stock kit a couple years ago. It's still pretty easy to find. My hobby shop has, 5-10 of them sitting around in the back still. Not a kit that sold particularly well when it got reissued. I think a lot of people still had original versions of those kits, and there wasn't a lot of, custom parts to the factory stock one, obviously. So it was, is factory stock only kind of kit. And so I know that doesn't necessarily have the broadest appeal. People like 2-in-1 kits, 3-in-1 kits. You like the options to build, and I understand that. This is sort of the inverse opposite of that. It's custom with no way to build a factory stock. So keep that in mind. Then you have a reissue of the Boss Nova, the mid-engine mill-powered dragon wagon. So if you recall, round 2 here not too terribly long ago, reissued a brand new 63 Chevy Nova. It was a curbside, and then it was a full kit, and then I think it's got curbside with a Sprite tie-in. I think it wasn't it was a Coca-Cola. This this weird drag racing thing, this is what the actual original 63 Nova turned into. This is why they had to make a whole new kit, because it got chopped into this drag racing nonsense. I know this has a special place in a lot of people's hearts, in the sense that it's like a vintage AMT drag thing, but, I mean, let's be honest, they destroyed a perfectly good kit, and then had to make a whole new version of that perfectly good kit in order to make this thing. It does have tinted glass, so if you want to make that red tinted glass on the box art, that is a possibility, you know, and if you're into that thing, you know all about what this is, because it's been around since the late 1960s, early 1970s. It's been a little while since this has been out, but nothing new about it, other than obviously new decals. They have a reissue of the Kenworth K123 cab over. It's been a hot minute since this kit's been around in terms of a frontline hobby shop release. I don't know exactly what's going on with this box art. It looks like somebody photoshopped this together in a really poorly fashioned way, because that whole front axle and bumper are sticking forward about, I don't know, half a foot too far, but far be it from me to notice things like that. This, of course, is Gulf liveried, so it will match that Gulf fuel tanker that was reissued about 6 months ago or so. These AMT trucks, they're not the world's easiest thing to build. There are 300 usually plus pieces. You kind of have to know what a truck looks like in terms of how one goes together, because the instructions on these things tend to be pretty non-committal as to where things go. There's a lot of just dotted lines off into space, and you have to sort of figure it out. So photo references are your friends if you're not a big rig builder. But again, it's been a hot minute since this is out. I picked one up, I think, at Ollie's probably 3 or 4 years ago, when it was done as an Ollie specific kit release, but it hasn't been in like hobby shops in like 8 or 10 years. So this will be available should you be interested. And then lastly, from the folks at Round 2, you have a reissue of the AMT 1962 Pontiac Catalina Superstock. Folks who are around long enough to remember, this is another Mueller era 90s kit. This was released as the 62 Pontiac 421 Super Duty back in the day. Same kit. This does have a newly tooled Bonneville grill and newly tooled 8-lug wheels and 8-lug wheel center caps. The center caps are separate, so you can put them on or leave them off. All these pieces were done to specifically replicate that car on the box art. The Tin Indian is a real car. It really was a real drag racing vehicle, and they tooled up these new pieces, add a little value to this kit. It's been around a few times, and give you a couple new parts to sort of suck you in and see if you can't to buy another one, or if you've never seen this kit before, get you on it, get you one in the first place. It's a really nice kit, as most Mueller era kits from the 90s were. That 57 Chrysler, that's a Mueller era kit too. It's a really nice kit. It's just kind of a box, so to speak, in the sense that there's not a lot you can do with it. This is, you can build a street stock version of this kit. The 421 Super Duty was one of those drag purpose kits that also was technically street legal to license and drive. So I like this kit. I actually just sold my original one. I'm going to pick one of these up when I get a chance to. And so that wraps up round 2. That takes us over to Salvino's JR and all things NASCAR. This month was kind of a little bit interesting. We're going to show you something that you can't technically buy unless you're part of their Builders Club. And that is the 1981 Chevrolet Monte Carlo Richard Petty. Now you notice the number on this car is wrong. It's a 42 instead of a 43. This was done in an attempt to get Kyle Petty as part of the Winner's Circle program, which was a whole promotional race winning, dividing type of thing, where the more cards that you had in it, the more money you got from the associate sponsorship program. So he ran Kyle Petty's number in this race, and then Kyle Petty ran the 43, and he was going to try to do it at Daytona, and they were like, no, for Daytona you actually have to run your actual car number for that. So this is sort of an inverse car, being that it's red with blue on it rather than blue with red on it. I know that's probably like splitting hairs, but really the car is primarily red if you look at it. And this was a kit that was done exclusively for the Builders Club. So Salvino's has this whole thing where you can basically do a Jam of the Month club where you get a model every month. It's always the vintage kit, except for like one of the next gen kit. You get one Camaro, one Camry, and one Mustang a year, and the rest of them are all vintage kits. And so this one only exists as that. If you don't belong to the Builders Club, you can't get one. Now, I know a bunch of people in the Builders Club bought extras. You'll probably be able to see these pop up on eBay. They're going to be expensive because they only made 600 of these. Or so. I think it ended up being 600 because it had to be rounded to the next nearest 100. And there's almost 500 people in the Builders Club. And then everybody bought extras. So it ended up being like 550 or so. And then they had to order decals to extend out to the next 100. So there's 600 of them. And that's it. They're not going to be sold in hobby shops. They're not going to be sold on vendors. They're not going to be sold online. You can't buy them on the Salvino's website. The only way you could get one is either be part of the Builders Club, and it's too late because they're already out, shipped to the Builders Club members, or you can find one secondhand. So, if you care, you have to go look for one and probably pay more than you expect to for that privilege. And then in the next gen stuff, you have a reissue again of their Camaro, 2024 Chase Elliott Hooters Camaro. Now this is actually a race winning car, so that's pretty cool. It's a very interesting livery, being a sort of gloss orange and a flat black or matte black. Be interesting to see people's take on how to do these decals, because a lot of people like to either flat coat or gloss coat, and this is sort of a mix of both. So I do look forward to seeing how people go about getting those decals done. Then you have a reissue in the 2024 Camaro again, and this is Daniel Suarez's Atlanta race-winning car. This will be molded in white. All the decals do everything else. And then lastly, one last 2023 Ford Mustang. Now, most people know there haven't been any 2023 Ford Mustangs in a little while. They were going to retool the body tool itself into the new Mustang. There's still an ongoing debate about exactly what's going to happen with that, because we're halfway through the year almost, and that still hasn't been done yet. There's a whole process behind that, and we'll see what actually winds up coming out of that. But they did run off a whole bunch of bodies in advance, knowing that they had this Wood Brothers racing licensing coming, and so this is Harrison Burton's car. Harrison, he's a field filler basically, but if you want a white 2023 Mustang, this is another kit to buy for that, because all the red will be decals. And the Chrome Fold 21, it's a nice looking car. It's obviously a vintage throwback to the Mercury years. The Pure later cars. This is Motorcraft in this sense, but still cool nonetheless. Also at Salvino's, a new tool. They've got an IndyCar. So unless you've been living under a rock, you knew that Salvino's was going to be doing an ongoing, because IndyCar now is on a kit car platform, sort of the way the NASCAR cars are, right? The next gen cars, they're a sort of universal platform that you body up as a Camaro, a Mustang, or a Camry, but all the chassis and everything's are the same. Same principle over at Indy. Now, the Indy cars are running a Dallara spec chassis, and the only difference with them is it Chevy powered or Honda powered. So being that all of them are effectively the same, that may let them do these kits. And with some tweaks, they'll be able to go backwards, I think, to 2016, and they'll be able to go forwards, obviously, into the future. These cars are all going to be set up as super speedway cars, so Indy, Texas, things of that nature. There's a possibility in the future that they will do a road course car, which has enough differences that it basically requires a whole new body tool. A lot of people think it's just a spoiler and a couple of pieces, but it's actually the whole car. So there's going to be 4 of these released this month as sort of the introduction of this, and then they're supposedly going to basically do 1 a month-ish from here on out. So starting off with, I think the one that's the most notable is the 2023 Indy winner. This is Joseph Newgarden's car. This was molded in white, and everything else is done in decals. Now, there's no chrome in this, so you're going to have to chrome the wheels. And the reason why the wheels aren't chrome straight in the box is that only Penske chromes their wheels. And I believe there's only 2 of Penske's cars out of the 4 they run chrome their wheels. So it's like, why would, you don't want to chrome everything and have to make people dechrome stuff, especially that weird chrome that Salvino's uses that's actually real metal. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a really I was going to say complicated, but it's really comprehensive. That's the word I'm looking for. Decal sheet. If you were at NNL East, you saw Clay Kemp have his build of this on the table, and that was the kit decals, and the kit obviously itself. So these are going to be 1/20th scale. I know that's not 1/24 scale, and I know that's not, this would be 1/24 scale. Open wheel cars are 1/20th scale. Blame Tamiya, whatever you want to. There are, I know, a couple of Formula 3000 cars that Hasagawa did, and then Revel of Germany did a weird line of 1/24 scale F1 cars at one point, but open wheel cars are 1/20th scale. All of Tamiya's kits are. Most of, a lot of the Hasagawa kits that are not Formula 3000, they did all their Formula 1 cars are 1/20th. Fujimi's are 1/20th. If you look at companies like New Scratch or Alpha Models that do modern resin multimedia kits of modern F1 cars, all 1/20th. So 1/20th is the scale for this thing. I think it's just interesting enough that I almost want to buy one of these, but I don't do open wheels, so I don't know if I'm going to. They have decided to include a nearly 8 by 8.5 by 11 sheet of pre-cut carbon fiber decals for this. So it's a lot of the chassis pan and the interior bits and things like that are going to have carbon fiber to them, and those are going to be included in the kits. So that's a nice extra. These kits are going to run probably north of $60, up to $80, because that's what the retail is on them. So your hobby shop may be shystering you for more than other hobby shops will. Price shop these. Don't necessarily accept the first price you see on them in that sense. And having that in there is probably a $20 value, because if you were to buy a carbon fiber decal sheet from like Studio 27 or somebody in the future, it would run you $20-$25. So other versions, like I said, there's 4 of these to begin with. You're going to get Kyle Larson's car for the Indy 500. It's a one-off. He's trying to pull the double, run the 500 and then the Coca-Cola 600. We'll see how successful he is about that. The weather's been pretty wacky, at least around here, where it's raining almost every day. I don't know. Maybe he'll pull it off. Maybe he won't. But this is his, orange, because even though they're Chevy powered, this is technically a McLaren. And so that's McLaren Papaya Orange on there with the Hendrick car logo from his NASCAR car. And so hee haha on that. And then you have Scott McLaughlin's Pennzoil car. And then you also are going to get Takuma Sato's was a Deloitte-sponsored Honda-powered car. Again, the only differences in these cars are the engines, and they do have different engine components in the Honda. The exhaust especially is wildly different than it is in the Chevy. So there is a difference. They're not exactly the same for both. There's actually like 2. It's the way the tooling's set up. Like there's a center runner that comes with everything, and then the one side's a Chevy runner, and the one side's a Honda runner. And depending on which engine you get, is which engine component tree you get. So it is a difference. So you cannot build like the same engine out of both. If you get a Honda, you're getting a Honda engine. You get a Chevy engine, you're getting a Chevy engine, and that's all there is to that. Over at Salvino's adjacent, Wes's Model Car Corner is releasing another one of their asphalt modified cars. This is going to be Dylan Kopech's. This was a track championship car. I can't remember what track it is now. I looked that up too long ago and I've forgotten. It says newly tooled, improved parts. I'm not exactly sure what those are. I got to admit, I don't watch Wes's broadcast on Facebook on Thursdays, so I probably could have found out what that is if I wanted to. But if you want to know what they are, and you're interested in these things, I assume you can do your own research on what exactly is new about them. I've never bought one to know what was old about them, so know that going in, that there are supposed to be some new parts and improved fit, which is something that kit could stand. I've heard rumors, but again, I don't have one personally, so I can't verify or deny that those things exist. And then lastly, on the American side, we got these releases from Atlantis. Atlantis pumping out some of the old Monogram and Revel drag racing tooling. So on the left, you have Tom McEwen's Mongoose rear-engine dragster. This kit was originally done in 1973. Again, it's a Monogram kit, so it's 1/24 scale. It's generally considered to be one of the better rear-engine drag kits of that era. It does include the figure and the Christmas tree, or the starting light setup. I would assume that's sort of self-explanatory, but then I look at Facebook and I realize that not everything has to be explained in great detail for some people. So that's coming back out. And then over there on the other side, you have Don Garlett's Swamp Rat 30 Dragster. That kit was tooled up in 1987. It represents the 1986 World Championship car that he ran. And so, you know, if you're interested in vintage drag racing, because, I mean, let's face it, 87 is 30 years ago now, plus 30, supposed to be 37 years ago now. Yeah, it's vintage at this point. So, yeah, those kits are going to be available if they're not already in your local store. All right, so moving overseas to Japan, we have, again, Aoshima, Fujimi, Hasagawa, and then we actually have a couple of things out of Bmax and Noo-noo. So hold your breath. Holy moly, that's like 2 months in a row we've gotten kits out of those folks. So starting out at Aoshima, the big new tool, the big deal, the big mamma jamma, the thing that everybody is interested in, was delayed a month and finally has shown up at here in May, is the Time Machine from Back to the Future Part 1. Man, that's a clunky English translation. So, yes, this is, of course, the DeLorean from Back to the Future. Now, if you're sitting there going, whoa, 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 Jim, they already have a DeLorean. This is just a reissue. No, 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 no. Nay, nay, I say. This is a brand new toolkit. Completely ground up brand new toolkit. The original one was a curbside. Everything was molded to the body. A lot of the interior was molded together. And it was, I don't know, 60, 70 pieces. This thing is pushing 200 parts. Everything is separate about this. Everything. The engine is the engine top, the Mr. Fusion part of it, is multi-piece. It's got all the wiring, all the cabling, everything that goes on the outside of the car is all separate. The interior is all separate pieces. So the flux capacitor and the time doohickey, I don't remember if there was an actual name to the little date and time things that was on the dashboard. All of that stuff is completely separate. Gullwing doors operate, allegedly. You know, your mileage may vary with an Aoshima kit with opening doors to whether or not they function or fit correctly. Hopefully this will fit correctly. They've been working on this for a better part of a year now. And yeah, that's pretty neat. What's neater is the fact that there's going to be a factory stock DeLorean this fall. But in the meantime, if you want to build a movie car and you're never sort of really into that Aoshima or AMT kit, the AMT kit is just a reboxed version of the Aoshima kit. Yeah, a brand new one. And then also, we don't do this a lot with the PE sets because we just say the PE set's available if you want it. But this is what the PE set is going to be for this. Includes a couple of sheets of PE. One is more for the car. It's got DMC badging for the door sills and sort of the grate for the rear tail lights. Then you have another sheet there that looks like seatbelt material, but it's actually part of the engine wiring loom. And then you have turned metal inlets and the mast for the hook that they use at the end of the movie to hook the bell tower line. That's a big piece of metal, and there's a couple of metal transfers on there for the rear view mirrors. So a lot of bits and pieces to this. So might be something you consider, even if you're not a big PE guy. There's not a lot of PE in this. There's only about 15-20 pieces, and I think most of it probably is usable in the sense that you're not folding a lot of metal in to try to make three-dimensional parts. There's a lot of appliques and things that, again, like the DMC door runners, if you pose the kit with the door open, that's going to look pretty good, having that metal kick plate instead of trying to paint that. So again, your mileage may vary. You choose what you want there, but that's available. Then a couple of reissues. New addition to the Toon Model Car line is the Insurance Toyota Crown. This Insurance VIP, obviously. And just a reissue here, adding it into this the new boxing. This kit's been around for quite a while, probably 25, 30 years now. And also a reissue of the Auto X Mazda Roadster. I think it's just Auto X Roadster. We're not talking about that this is an MX-5 or a Miata. it's just this thing. Now this kit does include the left-hand drive parts, and that's pretty rare in the sense that a lot of these MX-5 kits didn't, especially the tuner versions. If you buy older versions of this kit, it does not come with left-hand drive. So it's kind of interesting to see them putting the MX-5 North American parts into these kits as they're starting to reissue them. It's pretty cool. Not a lot going on here in terms of parts. You got a set of BBS-ish wheels, and then there's basically a front bumper that goes over the bumper on the kit. You get a little rear spoiler, a little bit of like sport seat action. Not a lot going. A lot of this is the visuals of the exterior, and then of course the graphics on it. But if you're interested, it's out there. And again, left-hand drive for the first time, so that's cool. Over at Fujimi, reissue city, as Fujimi has tended to be since they started kicking kits back on the regular. First up, Nissan Cedric V20E. This is a 1989. This is the High Society boxing, even though it doesn't say anything about that on there. If you notice, the lips of the fenders look shiny. That's because they're chrome plated. Well, not chrome plated, but they give you a little sheet of Mylar stickers, and they're already die cut, pre-cut for the fender shape. Yeah, that's awesome. Wouldn't want a bare metal full of those. Let's put stickers on them. And this also includes that weird chewing gum consistency, ribbed for your not pleasure thing that you have to cut out, stick on the car, and then cut up into pieces so it fits the door frame. It's self-adhesive backed on top of it. Yeah. It's also very basic motorized chassis. There's a lot going on with this kit that unless you really, really like 1980s Nissan Cedrics, yeah. Reissue of their Toyota Prius. So this is the Prius G, or the Touring Selection. The difference here, the Touring Selection is the one with the black roof with I don't know how well that'll show up on you. Depends on what kind of device you're watching this on in terms of size. But it's got a solar panel underneath the little black roof there. Don't think that, oh, hey, that's cool, there's like a black see-through roof. No, this is just a black piece of plastic. It is translucent in the sense that it's kind of sort of see-through, but the way this kit is tooled, the roof is solid underneath of it, so it's not see-through, it's just black. You can see through it because you put the decal. It's a pretty janky looking decal, I gotta be honest, but it's the decal for the charging for the solar panel goes underneath of it, so you can see that decal, but you're not seeing through the roof because the roof underneath the roof is another roof. So it's just the way this kit was tooled up to do these two different versions. I'm using the air quotes significantly there. Otherwise, these kits are identical. Same wheels, same everything. It's just that roof. So it's really actually a pretty nice kit chassis-wise. Like, it's probably Fujimi did this weird thing in the 2000s where they did really, really detailed chassis. And then they did these absolute half-assed interiors where it's a cup, a tub, the side panel, the door cards are not separate. And then the seats are engraved into the floor, or are part of the floor. You get the seat backs as separate pieces, and then you have to sort of plug them into the seats. And it includes the back seat in this, which is really a pain in the butt if you're going to paint the seats and the carpet a different color, because then you have to mask the seat bottoms off, paint the interior floor, and then mask the floor off and paint the seats the seat color. It's a really janky kit design. They did it with almost all of their kits for a span of like 5 or 6 years. In the mid-2000s. I don't know how that saved them money. I guess technically engraving the seats into the floor saved them, I don't know, a couple $1,000s in seat tooling costs, but honestly, that's just a weird thing to do. Then we have a reissue of their R32 GTR race car. This is the Kawasaki Skyline from the 1992 Japanese Touring Car Championship Series. Hey, Fujimi kit doesn't have the right wheels, it doesn't have the right mirrors. It's a mediocre kit to begin with. It's not the worst. The Aoshima R32 is worse. But yeah, I mean, Hasagawa released this kit. I don't know. Like this Kawasaki livery ran in 92 and 93. Like, I don't know why one of them didn't pick the other one. Although I would argue that Hasagawa doesn't have to pick another car because they're the one that did it first. But yeah, I mean, I can't recommend this knowing that the Hasagawa kit exists. This is not a recommended thing because you can build the same car and not have to worry about it. And then lastly over Fujimi are a pair of kits, and these are attached to each other via their new chassis in the Tohei, however you pronounce the Mountain Pass series. This is a Nissan Silvia S13 you're looking at first. It has a brand new chassis in it. It's that easy alignment system chassis. Now, it's not a universal chassis. Not every EAS chassis is the same identical thing. However, they all have the same principle in how they're constructed. So you can steer the wheels. Obviously, that's the thing that most Japanese kits do anyway. You can adjust the ride height up and down, so it could be like a lowered stance. And then you can also adjust it like corner to corner. One of the things they show in the literature to this is posing the car sort of tilted and leaning into that drift that it's doing on the box art. That's kind of cool, kind of toy-like, but it's kind of cool nonetheless. These are very basic curb sides. The rest of the kit is the same. If you have one of these or you've seen any Fujimi S13 Silvia, the whole rest of the kit is the same body interior. It's just the chassis that is new, and it shares a chassis with this, the Nissan 180S S13. In real life, these cars have the same chassis, so that makes sense. This is the same principle. It's the same body and the same interior that this kit has had since the 1990s. It just has this newly tooled chassis that, again, lets you pose it, with the wheels turned and tilted sideways as it's drifting down the mountain. So, I mean, I see the point of it, but at the same time, it's a basic kit. And, it probably with this new chassis, now the chassis isn't some janky motorized sort of not really a Nissan chassis, this is actually a pretty good kit for like a beginning builder because they can really, it's sort of teetering on the line of a toy, but it's not. So it'll probably appeal to a younger builder in that sense because it'll be easier to build than the original one. And it still makes, a relatively convincing replica S13 Silvia, S13 180SX. These are, cars that are familiar to younger folks who are A, into a drift scene, B, into the JDM scene, or C, have ever played Forza and or Gran Turismo, because those cars would have been included in it. Alright, so that'll take us over to Hasagawa, where we are again in the land of reissues, but there are some new pieces in some of these reissues. So, starting off with this is a Nissan Skyline GTS-R R31 custom version, in air quotes, I don't know what's that, custom version, with over fender. The thing here that is new are the over fenders. They are 3D printed, so that's pretty cool. We mentioned the last month with the 3D printed pieces that were in that one. Hasagawa is now the first company that is really pushing out in significant ways 3D printed parts in commercial kits. I mean, there's plenty of places you can buy 3D printed parts. You probably buy these over fenders in 92 different places, but this is the first time that they're coming with the kit. It's got like amalgamation of pieces. The R31 was done in like 4 different street car kits, and then there's also a race car version. This is sort of an amalgamation of the street car pieces with a couple of the race car pieces tossed in. If you haven't bought one of these, they're pretty cool, decent curbside kits. And maybe this one appeals to you in the sense of being, looking a little tough. It's got Watanabe wheels included, and that's another version of this kit for those folks. This is a Watanabe Dunlop Lola T9050. This is the 1990 season of Japanese Formula 3000. This has some newly tooled parts in it, so it's got a new halo behind the seat there. It's got a new windscreen. It's also got a new rear wing and winglets, and these pieces are in plastic, not 3D printed. So they've actually made these sort of pronounced permanent, well, not permanent because they can always take them out of the kit and reissue it as a normal 9050, but these permanent sort of changes to upgrade into this specific car. So yeah, cool. Then you have, and that is 1/24 scale, so it is one of those kits. And then you have this, the Kenworth Kremer Porsche 962C, the 1987 World Sports Car Prototype Series. This is another Fuji kit for the Japan event. I don't know why this doesn't qualify as being a 1987 World Sports Car Prototype Series at Fujimi 1000 kilometers like the last one. I guess with what was up there, we've run out of box art space. We can't make the type any smaller. We don't want to double stack it like a newsprint headline. This is the same 962C as you'd always get. This kit, the front canards, as well as those weird little things on the front wheel over the fenders there, you have to cut those out of sheet plastic. Sheet plastic not included. Then you have this, the Toyota MR2 early version, black, limited, 1986. That's borderline racist sounding. This is a special limited edition, Japan only kit, one-to-one car. The black limited was a thing in 1986. They made 300 of them. This would now be the third different MR2 that Hasagawa has made that are these weird limited edition, one of 300 piece, and the real car, 1 in 300 piece cars. So this utilizes the earlier kit in the sense that it's got the sort of monoblock 3-spoke style wheels to it, and it is the sunroof roof, not the moon roof, not the T-top roof. You could build this as an automatic or a manual. I believe the car was automatic in real life, if you really cared, and all of them were black, all 300 of them, hence the name. Then you have a reissue of the Mitsubishi Galant VR4 in the 1993 Rally Indonesia. Now, this particular car did not finish this rally. It had an accident, but this driver and this team, they actually won the Asia Pacific Rally Championship that year. So that's why we're doing this car. It's this specific car, not particularly good. This specific car and the team, very good. Now, the problem with this lies, if you looked at that box art, there's big blank blue spots and a lot of spaces. Look at it again. There's the big blank spot on the hood, on the rally placard, on the front fenders, above the number on the doors. There's, if you really look, there's a big blank spot on top of the roof. This car was sponsored by Benthals, or Boenthal's. It's an Indonesian tobacco attached to British American tobacco. It's sort of the Indonesian version of Rothmans in a way, same sort of gold and dark blue. You would need to create decals for the tobacco livery involved here because they are not in this kit in any way, shape, or form. They're pretty significant in the sense that they are the hood sponsor, the rally sponsor itself, as well as being on the roof and the number placard and the front fender little rectangles there. There's a lot of missing decals to this, and that's unfortunate, but it is, I guess, what we deal with as adult modelers in an adult hobby, that we can't have adult things. Then you have this. This is the 1996 Rally New Zealand. This is another possum-born race car. This is sort of what would have been it was still a 555 team, but would have been a 555 car, at the time, except you notice that this is a smoke-free New Zealand rally. So we have the CRC Chemicals livery on the side of this instead. It's an Australian company, an Australian sponsorship, so why not? But the car is that metallic blue dark blue I guess in this sense, of the 555 teams that ran that back then. This is one of those rare Subaru releases where I don't believe you need anything extra. Everything comes in this kit in terms of the correct mirrors and wheels and things of that nature, but it's another rally car by the folks over at Hasagawa. And then you have this, which is the Mini Cooper BSCC Limited 1998. So this car is the 30th anniversary of the 1968 British Saloon Car Championship. Mini Cooper, in the form of Morris, won that in 1968 in the 1300cc or less category. And this was a 500 car, in real life, 500 car run done to commemorate that 30th anniversary. This actually has a whole new set of seats tooled up for it. I didn't know that this car existed prior to Hasagawa making it, but yeah, they've actually gone out and the new front seat, new back seats, all the rest of it's sort of amalgamation of the other Mini Coopers, the kits that have come out in the last year and a half to make this. Now, if you're thinking British Saloon Car Championship, Mini Cooper, vaguely familiar, but I can't place it. Not Hasagawa, but Tamiya rather, did a road racing version of their Morris Mini Cooper back in the day, back in the 1980s. It is the one that has the car, two Mini Coopers sort of drifting through a corner, and if you find the box art for that, you'll notice that the striping package on this is almost identical to that car, because that car, ta-da, was what won the 1968 British Sports Car Championship, Saloon Car Championship. It will be Sports Car Championship at this point, but in real life, actually, in real life now, I guess this would be what, a TCR car, but yeah, back in the day, this was a commemoration of the championship that they won. Kind of cool. I mean, it's got mini lights. It looks neat. New, but it's really weird because, again, I didn't know this was a thing. Hasagawa could spend probably the next 5 years putting out these little one-off versions of this Mini Cooper, because if you ever really looked, they ran like 15, 20, 25 different, specialty versions with like the Mayfair, the kit they did before this was a specialty version. This is obviously a specialty version. There's, just a plethora, if you will, of these that they could do. So it's amusing, interesting, and I'm here to see where we're going with it next. And then lastly, from Hasagawa, you have the 1966 American Coupe Type B, because apparently somehow in Japanese law, that's good enough to not have to license Buick. So it's a Buick Wildcat. These 1966 series kits existed since the 80s or so, maybe even earlier than that. 80s is sort of when you first start seeing box art for it online. This one specifically is the Eggplane Girls thing with Amy McConnell with figure. So yes, Resin Girl, all the things. You get a little 124 scale Resin Girl to go with this kit. Same 66 Buick Wildcat that Hasagawa's done a gajillion times. This one just has a different set of decals, and obviously the Resin Girl of all the things. And yeah, cool. I don't know what else to say about that. And then that'll take us over to Bmax and Noo-noo as we head on out the door here. First up, a reissue of their BMW M8 GTE. This is in the Road Atlanta 2020 class winner livery. So this is the red version of these cars that ran at the Petit Le Mans in 2020. It won its class, as the box art says. I'm going to assume that both team cars are in here, as they were both red in that race. And yeah, it's another chance to get one of these if you didn't in the past. The other M8s have sold out. And so I believe this is molded in red. I haven't actually seen what the kit comes in yet, because they haven't released photos of it in like a raw box format. I've seen bolt-ups of it and things like that, but the bolt-up is obviously going to be red because it's red. But I'm not sure if it's molded in red or not. We'll find out soon enough. And, of course, sold separately, there is a PE set available. And then the other one is this, a 1991 Japanese Touring Car Championship Honda Civic EF9 in the Jax livery. Now, this is really, to me, really, really neat, because this specific Jax livery has never been done. The Jax livery, normally a really bright, in-your-face orange, yellow, green on a white car format in the sort of swoosh swatches. That's what I was looking for, the swatches pattern. And this one is blue with a bunch of neon green accenting. So that front spoiler thing, the rear spoiler, all neon green, and the rest of it is blue. And within the blue stripes are the word Jax over the roof and over the hood and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to see in the way the box art is drawn, but again, in real life, Jax in really big letters, sort of subdued into that blue striping. It's really cool. I can see why no one did it before, because it's sort of a wrap of the car in terms of the decals. But for fans of JTTC stuff, yeah, this is something that's been missing forever. And I understand why, but at the same time, I can't understand why no one's ever done these decals before. Somebody took a flyer on them. It made it really sucked and not fit real well, but I'm surprised nobody ever did them before. So many of these other decals have been done in the past, but this one, nope, no one's ever taken a swing at it, not even in the aftermarket. So that otherwise the kit's going to be the same. There's no new parts to it, and again, like all Noo-noo Bmax kits, this one is under a Bmax logo. This one is going to have a PE set available separately. It's very, very basic PE set. It's 20-25 pieces, mesh for the front grille, all the seatbelt material, seatbelt ribbon, brake faces, hood pins, things like that. It's, basic stuff like that. And there's a little bit of carbon fiber for like the seats and the things like that. So pretty basic, pretty easy to use, nothing too terribly complicated. And that, guys, wraps this one up. That's what it does. Anyway, now you know what you either have already spent or what you're going to spend your May hobby dollars on, and we'll see you guys on the other side.